My suitcase was already at my feet when he said it. Devin looked at me, his arms crossed, his voice flat and unbothered, like he was canceling a subscription, not talking to his mother. "Mom, I think it's time you found your own place. You're crowding us." I looked at him, then I looked at Priya, standing in the hallway with a small smile she didn't even try to hide. She had been waiting for this moment. I could feel it in the air, the way you feel a storm before it actually hits. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I picked up my bag, nodded once, and walked toward the door. And that silence I gave them, that was the most dangerous thing I ever offered them in my life. My name is Cheryl. I'm 36 years old, and I need to tell you how the boy I sacrificed everything for tried to erase me, and how I made sure that was the last mistake he ever made quietly. I raised Devin alone. His father left when Devin was 4 years old. No warning, no goodbye letter, just an empty closet and a note on the kitchen counter that said he wasn't ready. I was 23. I had no savings, no degree finished, and a little boy who still slept with a nightlight shaped like a rocket ship. So I worked. I got certified as a hospital billing specialist, and for the better part of a decade, I worked double shifts, packed lunches, skipped vacations, and stretched every dollar until it nearly tore. Devin went to a good college. Devin graduated without debt. Devin got his first apartment because I helped him. Every single step of the way, I was the floor he stood on without ever looking down. I wasn't glamorous. I wasn't wealthy. I was steady. The kind of steady that people lean on without thinking about it. The kind they stop noticing because it never breaks. About 8 months ago, I had a health scare. Nothing fatal, but enough to slow me down and shake me. Devin offered the guest room while I recovered, and I accepted, grateful and careful not to overstay. I cooked, I cleaned, I stayed out of their way. I wasn't there to be a burden, but they had already decided what I was. If you have ever given everything to someone, poured your whole life into raising them or supporting them, only to become invisible to them the moment they didn't need you anymore, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And click hype so this video reaches every parent who deserves to know they are not alone. 3 weeks after I moved in, Devin asked me to sit down for what he called a family meeting. Priya was already seated at the kitchen table when I walked in. She had her hands folded in front of her, like she was chairing a meeting at a company I didn't work for. She started talking before Devin even opened his mouth. "Cheryl, we've been thinking. The guest room is something we really need for a home office now, and honestly, your energy in the space has been affecting our routine." My energy, like I was a piece of furniture blocking the light. I looked at Devin. He was staring at the table. The boy I had walked to his first day of school, the boy I had held through fevers and heartbreaks and failures, could not look me in the eye. I told them I understood and that I would start looking immediately. That evening, Devin left his laptop open on the counter while he showered. I wasn't snooping. I was walking past to get a glass of water when I saw my name on the screen. It was a group chat, a big one, full of Priya's family members. The most recent message called me the squatter. There were laughing emojis beneath it. Priya had responded with a string of them. My chest went cold. Not hot, not tearful. Cold and very, very still. I scrolled up, just a little, just enough, and that's when I saw it. A message thread discussing a property, discussing a mortgage, discussing a name on the deed that needed to come off. My name. I confronted Devin that night. I kept my voice steady. "Devin, I saw the chat. They're calling me a squatter in a group with 30 people in it." He sighed, like I had interrupted something important. "Mom, don't make this dramatic. It's just easier this way." Easier. That was the word he chose. 36 years of sacrifice, and his word for it was easier? I started packing, but I did not forget what I saw in that chat, and I did not let myself feel anything until I was somewhere quiet enough to think. A few weeks after I left, Devin invited me to dinner at his place. Priya's parents were there, her sister, her brother-in-law. Devin introduced me at the door like an afterthought. "This is my mom. She's staying nearby now." That was it. No warmth, no context, no mention of anything. Priya spent most of the dinner talking about their plans for the house: new kitchen layout, expanded back porch, fresh paint throughout. She used the words "our vision" 5 times. She talked about the mortgage like it was entirely theirs, like the only reason they had qualified for that loan 3 years ago wasn't because I had co-signed it, because Devin's credit alone hadn't been enough, and he had called me crying at 11 at night asking for help. Not once did she acknowledge that my name was on that document. Not once did Devin correct her. I sat there. I ate my food. I said very little. The second moment came a few days later when I stopped by to collect a box I had left behind. Priya's mother was there. She looked me up and down from across the living room and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Is this the one who couldn't manage her own finances?" Devin was in the kitchen. He heard it. I know he heard it because the room went quiet. He refilled his coffee cup and said nothing. Nothing. I picked up my box. I thanked Priya for holding it. I walked out. The third moment came by phone. Devin called on a Tuesday morning, his voice warm and relaxed, like we were just catching up. "Mom, I wanted to ask you something simple. There's just a small document I need you to sign, just to remove your name from the mortgage. It's actually better for you, so you're not on the hook for anything going forward." He made it sound like a gift, like he was doing me a favor. I asked him to send it over so I could look at it. When the document arrived, I read every line. It wasn't just a removal of my name. Buried in the language was a clause waiving any equity claim I had accumulated since the mortgage began. 3 years of a rising market, 3 years of a property gaining value, all of it gone with one signature. I told Devin I needed time to think about it. And I meant it, because something had shifted in me. I wasn't grieving anymore. I wasn't the mother waiting by the phone hoping her son would come around. I was thinking clearly, maybe for the first time in months, and I was thinking like a woman who knew exactly what she had. Here's what they never knew. My whole career had been built on documentation. In hospital billing, a missing record or an undated file could cost thousands of dollars and sometimes someone's livelihood. I had learned early that you keep everything. You date it, you label it, you store it somewhere safe and somewhere backed up. That habit had never left me. Over the past 2 years, without even thinking of it as protection, I had kept copies of everything related to Devin's house: the original mortgage agreement with both our names clearly listed, the emails from 3 years ago where Devin wrote to me, and I still have the exact words in my memory. "Mom, I seriously couldn't have done this without you. The bank said your cosign was the only reason they approved it." I had screenshots of financial discussions in our family text thread where I had transferred money and Devin had confirmed receipt. I had a folder on my laptop, organized by date, every document labeled, every email printed and stored in a physical folder inside a fireproof box in my closet at the new apartment. What they didn't know was that I had a paper trail telling a completely different story than the one they were selling to everyone around them. They thought they were erasing me. They were actually handing me everything I needed to walk back in and reclaim what was mine. The quieter I became, the more comfortable they got, and I needed them comfortable. I reached out to Raymond Holt the week after Devin sent me that document. Raymond was a semi-retired attorney who had helped me settle my mother's small estate about 6 years ago. He was in his semi-retired 60s, sharp and unhurried, and when I sat across from him in his office, which smelled of old paper and strong coffee, I laid out every document I had brought. He didn't say anything for a long moment. He just read. Then he looked up. "Cheryl, your name on this mortgage is not a formality. You have legitimate equity standing here. If you had signed what they sent you, you would have surrendered a significant amount of money." I asked him how significant. He pulled up some market data on his computer and turned the screen toward me. The number was not small. Then he told me something else, something that made the whole picture land differently. He did some checking after you called. Devin consulted with a real estate attorney 6 months ago. The inquiry was specifically about removing a cosigner without their knowledge of the equity implications. 6 months ago? That was 2 months before my health scare, 2 months before he generously offered me the guest room. I sat with that for a moment. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the building's ventilation system. I remember thinking how strange it was to feel so calm while learning something so ugly. Devin texted me that same afternoon, cheerful, unbothered. "Hey Mom, just checking in. Have you had a chance to think about that paperwork?" I showed Raymond the text. He looked at it and set my phone back down without a word. Then he told me what my options were and we made a plan. I listened carefully. I did not rush. The quieter I got on the outside, the clearer everything became on the inside. They had assumed they had already won. That assumption was going to cost them. Devin requested a formal meeting about 3 weeks later. He framed it as a sit-down to get everything resolved. His words. He and Priya arrived with their personal attorney, a younger man in a gray suit who carried a leather folder and spoke in the polished, slightly impatient way of someone who expected the meeting to be short. Devin told me to come alone. He expected me to show up the way I always had, quiet and accommodating, maybe a little emotional, ready to make everything easy for everyone in the room except myself. Instead, I walked in with Raymond. I watched Devin's expression shift the moment he saw him. Just a flicker, but it was there. Priya straightened in her chair. Devin's attorney opened the meeting with the standard framing. My name needed to come off the mortgage. It was a simple matter. They had prepared documents, all very routine. Raymond let him finish. Then, without raising his voice, without any visible hurry, he opened his folder and began placing documents on the table. The original mortgage agreement, the bank correspondence showing the approval had been conditional on my co-signature, Devin's emails, the financial records, each page laid flat and legible in the center of the table. Devin's attorney picked up one of the emails, read it, set it down. Raymond spoke. My client's name on this mortgage is not incidental. She is a co-owner with documented equity. The document your client sent her last month would have waived that equity without her full understanding of its value. We are not here to sign anything today. Devin looked at me. For the first time in months, he really looked at me. Mom, can we just talk about this without making it into something it's not? I kept my voice even. I didn't come here to fight you, Devin. I came here to make sure you understood what you were actually asking me to give up. Raymond outlined 2 options, a fair equity buyout at current assessed market value, which Devin's attorney could verify independently, or I remained a legal co-owner with full standing, meaning any decision about refinancing, selling, or modifying the property required my signature. Devin leaned forward. Mom, this isn't what family does. I looked at him for a moment before I answered. No. What family does is not put their mother in a group chat and call her a squatter. The room went completely silent. Priya looked at Devin. Devin looked at the table. His attorney cleared his throat softly and leaned over to say something to Devin in a low voice. Whatever he said made Devin close his eyes for just a second. Then Devin's attorney looked up and said they would need a short break to confer with their client. They took 15 minutes. When they came back in, Devin didn't look at me when he spoke. We'll do the buyout. Devin signed the buyout agreement 2 weeks later. The check arrived shortly after. It was enough for a real fresh start, not a temporary fix, not just covering bills for a few months, but actual breathing room, actual ground under my feet that belonged only to me. I found a small apartment on the 3rd floor of a building with big windows and morning light that came in strong and warm. I unpacked slowly. I hung my own pictures on the walls. I slept without that low, constant hume of anxiety that had followed me for months. I went back to work. I cooked dinner for myself on weeknights and sat by the window when the evenings were quiet. I felt lighter than I had in years, maybe longer than that. Devin called about a month after everything was settled. The conversation was short. His voice carried the sound of someone choosing words carefully, someone aware, perhaps for the first time, of how much damage they had done. We did not fix things on that call. I don't know if we ever fully will, but I'm not carrying this as rage. I'm carrying it as a lesson, one I learned the hard way about what it means to love someone so completely that you stop seeing what they're becoming. I don't hold the door shut, but I no longer hold it open at the cost of myself. I spent 36 years being someone's soft place to land. I gave that role everything I had. It took being shown the door to remember that I was never just a soft place. I was a foundation, and foundations don't disappear just because someone stops looking down. Now, in my apartment, with the morning light coming through those big windows, I sign my name on things that belong entirely to me. And that signature, that simple act, feels like the most powerful thing I have ever done. If someone in your family tried to erase what you contributed, a co-signature, a loan, a sacrifice they later pretended never happened, I want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and I want you to know that what you gave was real, even when they act like it wasn't. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because we are building a community here that refuses to be rewritten out of their own story. And click hype to help this reach every parent who gave everything and was handed a waiver in return. Standing firm against your own child is one of the hardest things a person can do. It goes against every instinct you've built over a lifetime of loving them. If you've been there, if you've had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping yourself, subscribe and become part of this community. You belong here. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype, and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.